Everyone, welcome back to Streaming Media Connect 2023. Thanks everybody for being here. Got a good crowd assembled for what's going to be an excellent keynote from a really insightful speaker. A little bit of busy work here up front. First of all, the first person who can correctly name both the performer and the song name that was just playing in our chat and is here at the end of this session. So it's not enough to just put the correct song and act in there. You have to be here at the end of the session. We'll win a $50 Amazon gift card from Streaming Media Connect. Now, if you've already won this week, you cannot win again. Sorry about that. But other than those qualifications, if you're here and you've answered correctly, you can win. Secondarily, we've got a great set of content today. Got even more great panels and speakers tomorrow. So please stick around or keep coming back to the sessions. All of the sessions from this week, and some of them already will be or are already up on Streaming Media Connect's YouTube page. So Steve will put that link in the chat and you can go right there. Also, exciting news, fresh off the presses. Streaming Media and myself are partnering for an in-person Streaming Media East in New York City, the center of the universe, at the Intercontinental Barclay Hotel on May 20th through the 22nd next year in 2024. That's right. We're going to do this IRL. I'm going to host and help curate the content there. We're going to have exciting speakers. Although if you have an idea for a panel or a keynote, please hit us up. We are now taking submissions for speakers and panels. So next May 20th through the 22nd, Streaming Media East, hosted by myself in New York City at the Intercontinental Barclay Hotel. So circle that calendar now. Steve will put a link in the chat and you can take a look at that. I think that's all the busy work. So without further ado, I want to introduce our exciting speaker here. She is the Senior Director of Engineering at Google TV, and she's going to talk to us about the future of streaming fast, furious, and free. Shobhana Radhakrishnan. There she is. Good luck. I'll see you in a couple minutes.
All right. Thank you, Evan. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Shobhana Radhakrishnan, and I lead engineering for the Google TV platform at Google, as Evan said. So I just wanted to clarify the terminology between Android TV and Google TV. As I mentioned, because the TV experience has changed a lot, and we find from our user research that people would like to get to the content as quickly as possible, and that's one of the challenges they face. So we had the vision for a content-centric UI, which is Google TV, that evolved from this. So that is the distinction between Google TV and Android TV. And Google TV actually sits on top of Android TV, the operating system, just brings personalized recommendations on top of that. That's the way to think of Google TV. So today, let's take a closer look at some trends that are driving content engagement and revenue models, specifically fast. And I will also share like a case study, how we have approached serving users and partners effectively based on these trends that we see. TV continues to be by far the most loved device to engage with content by a significant margin of preference. This is something we see time and time again in all of the user feedback and research that we do. And viewers have made the shift to streaming, and this shift is here to stay, and it's now just daily habit for practically everyone. For example, we see that over 83% of US households have a paid streaming subscription, and several more have access to some kind of free service as well. This has led to a huge evolution in terms of content apps and a wide variety of subscription-based services, as we all know. And also each service containing different kinds of content, news, sports, live, well beyond the traditional TV and movies, when things felt a little simpler to users. And we also increasingly see that more and more users have subscriptions to an increasing average number of apps per user. So more apps As all of this continues to evolve with more apps, from a user perspective, this starts leading to a few pain points, as there is increasingly more and more content fragmentation. This has led to the general difficulty for users to find content to watch, or even navigating through different apps just to find which one has the movie that a friend just recommended. I am definitely one of those users who picks movies to watch based on something I just heard, or a friend or a colleague just recommended. So I start looking for that movie. But I want to get to the movie or show as quickly and easily as I can. Now, beyond this difficulty, users also feel like they're missing out because they don't get to know about new movies or shows across their apps and providers easily. They just have to go in, discover, and find out. With all of this going on, and users, in spite of having more and more subscriptions, at the same time are increasingly insecure about whether they're spending too much money on too many subscriptions and whether they're getting the right value for their money in terms of content access through these various subscriptions that they now have. Viewers are also feeling like they're wasting time searching instead of just consuming their favorite content, getting to them as quickly and as simply as possible. For example, we see that viewers spend a whopping 30% on average of their time searching instead of watching. Isn't that so frustrating from a user's perspective? I think all of us can relate to this in some way or the other. For example, I often used to feel what I call the Friday evening moment, which is after a long work week, we come home, just kick our feet up on the sofa in your favorite family room, living room setting. You just want to watch something. You turn on the TV and you spend 10, 20 more minutes just looking for content and still not finding anything to watch. And in the end, oftentimes my husband and I even decide to let's just go out for dinner. We didn't find anything to watch. So this is real. This is something that hopefully we can all relate to and it all resonates. If this all wasn't already complicated, another trend that is pronounced is that while just a few years ago, TV was predominantly a lean back device, with users wanting to watch movies and shows, increasingly they are also interested in using the TV device for active engagement, such as gaming, fitness and exercising, as well as shopping, because a lot of these habits were already evolving. But during COVID, when we had multiple years in the comfort of our home, many of us developed or these habits got amplified where we chose to do many of these things from the comfort of our home. So the choice available and the choice expected by users is also constantly increasing. While this is happening, in parallel, streaming continues to grow by leaps and bounds. People are cutting the cord, signing up for more streaming services. So by 2026, the average household is expected to have over 6 video streaming subscriptions. And people also want to watch across platforms and devices and device types. So smart TV, mobile, tablet, these three are increasingly becoming a common way for people to consume content and access their favorite content, movies, shows, or otherwise. And another interesting observation is that beyond just needing this variety of devices and accessing content through these variety of devices, people are also expecting continuity. For example, if I watch an episode on my mobile phone, I want to go to the TV and be able to continue watching from that episode. So this is just almost like a basic expectation now. So we saw what's happening from the user's perspective so far. In the meantime, some notable trends are evolving on the industry side as well. A very fundamental change here is a huge shift to connected TV, or CTV as it's called for short. And users we saw are spending more time with streaming than ever before. It's starting to get closer to half of the time split between streaming and linear TV. The time spent with streaming is fragmenting, however, as we saw again. So the fight for eyeballs is only getting more intense from the content or streaming provider's perspective. Also note here that you start seeing some fast players starting to show up. We see TRC, Tubi, Pluto, and this is becoming a significantly big growth vector within streaming. And we believe strongly that this trend will continue. From the cable and broadcast world, that many channels can be typically and easily supported. For example, 15 cable channels had over 1 million viewers in 2022. And as sticker prices go down, this may continue at least for a bit. So this sets, with all of the trends that we saw, this sets a firm ground and a solid ground for us to really think about how to bring more free content in front of users and how to make it meaningful for both users themselves for their satisfaction as well as businesses. And as streaming companies vie for more time, more eyeballs, they continue to invest in content. We have all seen the transition to original content from practically every popular streaming service and platform. At the same time, more recently, we are starting to see a slowdown. Even unrelated to the recent strikes, we are seeing a slowdown in original content. This is because producing original content is extremely expensive. And this slowdown is due to the growing pressure to become profitable. Where it used to be all about the number of subscribers before for streaming services, Wall Street is now looking for profits. So having a broader, more diversified revenue model than just subscriptions is becoming increasingly critical to even continue to remain and play in this market. So while streamers struggle to become profitable, they're also faced with headwinds in subscriptions. You see a big slowdown in subscriber growth and increase in churn. This is again because of back to the users expecting variety of content. And so this leads to a trend of users unsubscribing and resubscribing for specific content, which is problematic from a predictable business model perspective. And this is an important element of the machinery turning more and more towards fast. So as a solution to all these issues, streamers are returning to ads. They are bringing the dual revenue stream model from paid TV to streaming TV. This has actually been the core model for decades in media and entertainment. Content is dollars, and it requires to be monetized via both subscription and ads. This is why it becomes critical to bring together the power of streaming platforms and services like Google TV does, as these all individually address parts of the partner's business models. But collectively, they can address this duality. And it's really important for any platform or even a streaming service to approach it so that we can be a cohesive partner that helps our other partners in the ecosystem, irrespective of how they are leaning in on these two aspects for the business model options. For example, we see a wide variety of variability here. Some services provide purely free with ads, some are providing subscription based, and some are anywhere in the middle of the spectrum, where some are providing tiered services where there is a lower or free tier that has more ads, and a higher premium tier which has either no ads or much smaller proportion of ads. Or they may be providing bundles where they try to bring different subscriptions with product portfolios to satisfy a wide variety of users. And so promotional discount on subscriptions, but then being able to monetize using ads. So it's a very fascinating and exciting time to observe how these all evolve in parallel as these services fight for user eyeballs and user acquisition and retention in the end. Based on all this, there is a significant shift of ads dollars to connected TV. To understand the shift to CTV, it's helpful to look at the history of in-stream ads itself, which actually for over 60 years was, of course, TV commercials. We're very, very used to this from our cable experience. We call this the traditional TV market. Big brand advertisers bought ads for broadcast and cable, without targeting to build awareness for their products. And as users and consumers, we saw content which was interspersed with ad slots, and we became familiar with these products and then went to real stores or online and bought these products. The internet then brought streaming video on the web and then on mobile with digital advertising that promised personalized targeting and also interaction for skipping ads or even visiting a website. So you may see some interfaces already in this area where you see an ad and then you can send it to your phone, or you can parse a QR code and leverage it for the actual purchase. So these are all already part of this interactive, personalized targeting for digital ads. YouTube, for example, is a global leader in this market. So advertisers split their budgets between traditional and digital TV, often with separate teams, policies, rules, etc. Enter streaming, connected TVs, and cord cutting. With signed-in users, connected TV works more like digital than traditional TV, and therefore represents a more palatable transition for ad budgets from traditional TV, seeking premium content on the large screen. Because with better ability to target, there is always a better value for ads dollar investment. And more importantly, because as viewers cut the cord, advertisers can't reach these users anymore and instead have got to pay to get them on CTV. So we see ads budgets moving to CTV, with CTV growing each year and traditional TV shrinking. This is what we refer to as a share shift to CTV. And we strongly believe that this is expected to continue just going deeper and deeper and will continue happening in the coming years. So we will soon see the answer to where does FAST fit in with this trend moving forward. First, let's see what's going on in the TV industry in terms of strategy to address the overall ad shift. Now, most connected TV platforms have display ads experiences. These usually come in the form of slots on the screen, and these slots usually have dynamic ads. They are not as personalized or targeted as what we will talk about shortly in stream ads, but these ads are served on specific slots, and usually most platforms have some basic algorithms to dynamically generate ads and serve them on these screens. And Google TV has display ads with an immersive experience, like an auto video play experience. It has a display ads on the home screen too. So this is an already existing and also continuing to grow aspect of ads. Now, the other big element that is growing and is continuing to grow significantly is in-stream ads, which usually is in the form of fast or free ad-supported television. Back to the point about users being insecure about whether they have too many subscriptions or are paying too much for their subscriptions, having access to a lot of free content is starting to become an increasingly important element for users to feel like they have choice. And this also opens the doors for a clear ad-based revenue model akin to the old cable TV model, which actually in some ways felt simple to both users and advertisers. So as we thought about how can Google TV and Android TV OS ecosystem help with this trend, I'll share this a bit more in detail as a case study of how we helped and how we are continuing to look at ways to do better and better in helping with this need for the ecosystem. So the first step here is for us to take a step back and internalize where we played a role in the broad ecosystem. So Google TV experience runs on both smart TVs and streaming devices, which are made by several top OEMs. The Android TV experience, which is the more traditional experience also runs on smart TVs and streaming devices. And our approach is for Android TV experience to be eventually replaced by Google TV on all new devices over time. This is because Google TV is much more personalized, and we find that the user satisfaction is much higher when it's personalized. And we also have another big partner experience to think about, which is important for anyone trying to play in the fast and pay TV world, is operator devices. So we also enable custom experiences on set-top boxes and dongles made by pay TV operators. As many of you may be aware, pay TV operators tend to have a lot of direct customer relationship, ownership of the end-to-end customer flow, starting all the way from the setup, installation in the home sometimes, and the end-to-end full experience. So the way we enable that element of the ecosystem, both from a general offering as well as ad-supported offering, needs to be tailored to the operators, pay TV operators' needs and their existing business models. So because of playing in this overall ecosystem with a wide variety of device partners, we are currently the #1 smart TV platform globally by shipments. And this has resulted in a huge number of monthly active devices. The reason this part is significant is this is coming also from global growth across continents. And the reason it's important for us to be cognizant of this pattern is that to really provide an effective platform that provides the right consistency from a platform perspective, which is reliability, performance, uniformity perspective, at the same time enabling this wide variety of businesses and content partners with ad revenue to succeed, we really need to bring that humility that we may be standardizing a core platform, but we really need to build for the local needs of every region that we play in. And the local needs could be in the form of just users having different viewing behavior, different demographics, different family settings even. For example, we notice that in some of our markets, for example, in our Asian markets, multi-generational households is common, whereas in some other markets, it's not as common. The kinds of network, broadband network capabilities, and therefore the types of devices, the edge devices on the home are very different. So when we try to build an infrastructure for not just streaming but ads, we need to be cognizant of the wide variety of setup in which they all need to play effectively and well. In addition, we have a high number of partnerships, device partnerships. You can see here just a snapshot or a cross section of the pay TV operator partners, all from very different regions, very different geos, and also serving very different kinds of customer interaction and experiences. So it's important for us to really lean in and understand what's going on the ground and what their own revenue models are. Some of them have live TV as part of their offering, and they have their own fast and live TV models as well. So it's important for us to be really cognizant and plugged in on that. We have over 10,000 apps. This is an example just to show again the cross section of content that plays into the screen. So as you can see from just skimming over here, some of them are traditional TV and movies. Some of them provide music. Some of them provide fitness content. Some of them try to bring live and sports together. And some of them are actually aggregators. And you can also see examples here where there's free content and premium content available in tiers. And there are a couple which have their own platform, and they also provide a service that runs on our platform. So this is just a small cross section of the 10,000 plus apps. So I'm sharing these so that it gives an idea of the kind of position we are in before we can think about how do we solve for this ecosystem. So the end of the day for us, still it came back to the one basic question: what do users and viewers want? Because the moment we don't answer that effectively, then all bets are off. So with more shows, movies, and games available, and more ways to access all this content, finding what they watch, what they can watch, can be very, very frustrating. The TV experience has come a long way, but it's still kind of broken. And our users are saying the same thing still. They're not sure what to watch, where to watch it, what is free, and what they have to buy. It's so hard for them to even find out what content is free. Apps, cable providers, live TV, on demand TV, there are just way too many choices. I've actually heard people say, were things actually better with cable? It felt a lot simpler. I knew what I was getting for what I was paying. So, first major step was we want to fix this experience so that people spend less time searching and more time relaxing with a good show and can easily see where the free content lives. So, we decided to approach the problem with a one Google mindset, and we came up with a TV experience and a free content experience that brings together capabilities and content from Google Search, Google Assistant, YouTube TV Play, and we also have a number of third party integrations included in our offering as well. Now, to think about the ecosystem intuitively, it's useful to think of the streaming business in the form of a flywheel. The first step is the core. It's to have that delightful user experience where they love what they see. They keep coming back to the platform. So we need to create that returning user satisfaction level, which leads to high engagement. And then combining that with high scale means we deliver the device and platform quality for global devices. So we need to operate at the low end, medium end, and high end markets to be able to serve content and therefore ads. Now, when you combine this with the ability to personalize for the user based on regional preferences, then there is a foundation of credibility that we have with the user where we can start moving into monetization in the form of ads, especially in-stream ads like the fast model, because in-stream ads are technically like an interruption for the user. So you really need to build that credibility from the platform perspective before that feels like a meaningful balance to the users. Again, because people find value in free content on the platforms, we see time and time again in our user surveys that be having access to free content is a big part of satisfaction. So when this flywheel is moving well, then the business can start making the opportunity for itself to reinvest back into further scale, further innovation for users, and then further eyeballs for monetizing using display ads. And then the flywheel keeps moving. So the first step is to bring personalized recommendations. So on the very top screen, you see content directly. You don't see apps here in the snapshot. And this is our core, the crux of the solution is we try to bring personalized recommendations. It's much easier said than done because there's millions and millions of pieces of content. So what do you bring in the 4x5 screen on TV that's most relevant? It's a very, very difficult problem to solve. And we lean on both implicit and explicit signals for users. And even in terms of interest for free content, there are a lot of signals of whether users are interested in engaging. And we try to bring a mix of free content to the forefront as well. So they can easily find, and we also label it, we make it explicit and easy for them to see what is free and what is not, which is a big part of the confusion we saw earlier. We try to lean into tentpole events or social events that may be top of mind, and we try to bring relevance based on that. We give a lot of value to what the users have already subscribed to because that means they feel high value in accessing content from those apps. So we have intermixing algorithms that bring all of these together, but still keeping the user satisfaction and user feedback as the big data point. And the other big piece we have noticed is easy navigation. So with all the principles that we just talked about in terms of best practices, easy navigation we find is critical for the right, fast opportunity realization as well. So easy navigation that is again tailored to the user is continuing to be important based on all the feedback and observations we have. So they spend less time searching and more time jumping right into the content. Again, this applies to free content as well. So if I want to look for free content, I find it very easily, or I can find my premium content that I'm subscribed to as well. Aggregating content across apps. This helps remove the biggest barrier to entry for watching. Watching is the primary action users come to TV for. So with the complex ecosystem growth we discussed earlier, bringing in a personalized aggregation removes this biggest barrier to entry. And this again is a core element we feel that all platforms, all services need to constantly lean into to continue to succeed. And then the big aspect is that we're always constantly finding new ways to bring users more free content options. And we have integrated with multiple free content providers. So we have over 800 free TV channels all in one place. And you can see in this navigation that what we find here is it's great, it's excellent to have all this choice, but then it can get easily overwhelming because users don't want to scroll through multiple vertical and horizontal bars to find the show or the content they want to watch. So we have added categories or easy ways of filtering through search, through voice search, through other forms of search as well. So that again, removing the barrier to entry, because with more choice, people get overwhelmed. And so similarly, as people have more and more free content choice, there is increased satisfaction in just the fact that it's available, but it can get overwhelming. So again, coming back to basics. So when we add new features, always come back to the basics. The other part that we have found as a huge value add, and we believe that this should be the foundation of any platform, is the ability to tailor to each person who accesses a shared communal device such as the TV. Introducing profiles and personalizing content to the profile helps viewers find content even faster. And also, as different members in the family grow and evolve, their viewing choices and watching behavior also evolves. And making this all dynamic and tailored based on what they do, what they engage with, actually makes it really easy for a platform to scale. So that's also really, really important, is to make sure that these are algorithmic, but always listening to what the users are doing, what their preferences are, and what kinds of things they find valuable. In summary, there are a couple of specific ways in which we have approached helping with this journey. The first thing is just personalization. You've probably seen me say this a few times today. That is really core. This is based on watch history, user interests, trending titles, tentpole events, sometimes sports events. So, really being able to have an infrastructure and algorithms that are able to lean in on different aspects of input and digest it and give the best to users. Google Assistant is naturally integrated into our infrastructure because voice search, we see that some demographics, voice search is found to be lower barrier to entry for them. For example, in my family, my kids enjoy using voice search a lot more than remote and text search. So we need to have all those available as well. And we have native integration with Google Play Store with thousands and thousands of apps to choose from. And those of these apps that have made the Google TV integration will have a more personalized integration displayed on the screens. A small example of one of our favorite features is continue watching. So one of the rows on the top is just continue watching but from across the apps, including free and premium content. And we find that that's one of the favorite rows for users because it leads to the continuity that is natural for a user, including across devices. So that's a small example of the deeper integration value and deeper personalization value as well. The other big piece is being in the right place at the right time for users to engage with content. So whether it's ads or otherwise, deep linking, like important to internalize that removing even small barriers like this. One fewer click, two fewer clicks gets to watching and engagement and satisfaction. So we have deep linking integration, for example, for free content as well again. And so this allows our partners to reach the user's eyeballs and with the most valuable content at any time. So as we think about in-stream ads and this personalized approach to providing this content, including free content, so that users can access them, engage with the free content that is satisfying to them, personalized to them, and therefore also get the flywheel going. I wanted to also share a few things specific to fast implementation itself. It is not trivial at all to take on fast implementation. So it's important to be aware of a few core elements and also key challenges in getting this kind of infrastructure up and running. So first thing, we've talked about personalization. This applies to ads as well, because it is a lot more value for both the users and the advertisers and content partners if there is a personalization infrastructure. And providing a lot of choice, but avoiding overwhelming the user needs to be in the design consideration from the get-go is something we learned. Ad relevance, extremely critical. Because not everyone, first of all, people don't like being bombarded with ads, a lot of ads that are not relevant to them. That makes them feel like the platform doesn't really understand them or care about them as users. So ad relevance is an important part of what needs to be built in. Ad duration matching, this is a technical complexity. So in the in-stream ads, especially if you're stitching it live, then there may be slots. So how do you dynamically match ad duration so that it's most efficiently used and it is served with technical smoothness? A lot of times, especially when working on a global audience, video and audio formats can be widely varied. So really making sure that the best video and audio format for the ads are available and tailoring the rendering of the ad and the video to the device, again, dynamically. Think of the complexity involved in that. This is all important to build into the infrastructure for effective, fast delivery. And player technology is sometimes important as well, making the right choice, both from a performance, but also from a functional completeness perspective. Can they support all kinds of video and audio formats? What kinds of compression and buffering algorithms do they employ? How efficient are they? Do they work with the rest of your technical stack on the client or UI? So all of these things are important to think about. Beyond this, zooming out of the technological elements, there's also a lot of regulatory compliance, sometimes country and region specific, that's really important to factor into ads. And a lot of these also call out age appropriate regulations, which again, practically every country can be different. So really being able to support that in the infrastructure. And beyond this, there may be some additional policies specific to the platform that you're working on as well. So it's really important to work within the privacy and security policies, which at Google, we are very, very tight on this whenever we implement any consumer-facing product, not just ad serving. There's a lot of tightness in ensuring that security and privacy policies are respected and incorporated. And a lot of transparency from a user's perspective is available before we can render content to them. So we covered a lot of things about fast. So a little bit taking back to the big picture. We talked about the direction of streaming, especially with AI and personalization, simplifying content access for every single user in the home, and how free content is seen as an important value addition in an increasingly competitive world for user acquisition, engagement, and retention. Because of this, fast is an increasingly important means to have a solid flywheel effect going for TV platforms and services, streaming services as well. TV continues to be at the center of the home, and it's an important communal device shared across cohabitants of different demographics in a family, different age groups, different viewing habits and preferences, which also evolve as the family grows. The content space is increasingly complicated and fragmented and will only become increasingly so over time. And unlimited content translates to user frustration, pain and discovery, and decision fatigue, not to mention a feeling of FOMO, the fear of missing out on content because of not even knowing what's available. And also feeling increasingly secure about whether their money is being put to good use and whether they're getting the best value for their money. In this context is where EPG and free TV are increasingly hugely relevant in terms of making the offering more complete. And fast is a growing space which will only continue to grow with all the trends we discussed today. And businesses are increasingly moving billions and billions of ads dollars to streaming and connected TV from the traditional pay TV because they want to meet users wherever they are and however they consume content. That's what's driving this trend. And in this context, personalized recommendations, personalized ads, personalized and relevant ads, and a data driven approach tailored to individual users is a must have for both content and fast/ad serving to work meaningfully in the streaming world. With a few elements to reduce friction, this can amplify the overall value. For example, an integrated assistant to help with voice, or deep links have removed some friction points for us. And even we are always paying attention to the navigation, the number of clicks, the number of scroll steps. And so by being constantly obsessed with this, by looking at how users are engaging, what they're telling us in surveys, a platform can make its offering even more compelling for both users and partners in the ecosystem. And it's important not to lose sight of the fact that users want to watch on all their devices and want to have continuity across them as well. Again, with a completely frictionless journey to their content of choice. So, Google TV, for example, we have an app on mobile that works with both Android and iOS, and there's a widget on the tablet as well. And the interesting thing is, it's not just about watching on all devices or even the continuity on all devices for watching, but it's also about how these devices can interplay to make things easier. For example, our mobile app can operate like a virtual remote. And this actually makes the TV journey itself much more easier, much more satisfying to users. So it's important for all of us, streaming services and platforms, to start thinking about how do we leverage this device interplay in a way that keeps removing friction from the users getting to the watch action and from streamers getting to the users. That's again the core of how we should think about leveraging all the patterns around us. So, where do we go from here? With more innovation to come, we should expect to see more of the trend to move to free content and free ad supported content as an important revenue stream across all services. From Google TV perspective, we are already leaning in and partnering across the industry to build this kind of next generation experience that effectively leverages personalization and data driven infrastructure to provide high relevance to the users, whether it's content or ads. In the end, we believe that it's all about making it as effortless as possible for users to find content and making it as effortless for partners to find their users and keep them happy and engaged, and making effective revenue out of this engagement. And fast plays a critical role in the future evolution of this equation. It can be extremely complex to build a fast infrastructure to ensure that it works globally from a perspective of a lot of angles: device capability, viewing behavior, regulations, your own policies, user reaction and responses, partner value proposition, and realization of potential. So, with all of this information and a data driven approach that's constantly listening to users and constantly looking for ways to amplify the value in the ecosystem, there's a lot to achieve in this world of the fast, furious, and free. With that, I'd like to thank you all again for joining, and I'd like to open it up for any questions.
Great job. Really fascinating stuff. I really appreciate it. I think one of the great challenges of the current ecosystem is discovery. There's this choice paralysis that's setting in for consumers on CTV, where they because there's just so much out there between free and paid, they're having a hard time actually. The more choice you give a consumer, actually, the fewer choices they make. It's kind of a paradox of choice study that's been done, but it's proving itself out across CTV. A couple of questions we got asked, so I'm gonna prioritize this question. Do you see a time where in the ecosystem you include gaming in the search, because the CTV is also the gateway to a tremendous amount of gaming content as well. Are you considering including that in your discoverability and the rest, and even in the kind of ad ecosystem that you're building there?
Absolutely, because I think we see a lot of our streaming services are offering video content already, and we see TV as a center of what we call a connected TV ecosystem from a devices at home perspective as well. So we do expect that gaming will become one of the verticals that users want to engage with on the big screen in their homes. And so mixing up content with gaming, again, based on which users potentially have gaming subscriptions, have engaged with gaming content, we should be able to bring that in as well. Um, yeah, we
Cool.
definitely focus that.
So kind of to combine two questions together here. You talked a lot about the digital, television ecosystem between FAST and AVOD and SVOD. But there's two different questions that I'm going to combine into one from the Q&A, which is the role or the presence of public service media. So that would be more of a European question, perhaps, maybe a Canadian question. And not although here in the United States we have PBS as well, and also the presence or the inclusion. They were either not on there, or maybe they weren't on there on purpose, of the pay TV app. So like a Spectrum Reach or a DirecTV Now, or any of those types of vMVPD or vMVPD apps.
Yes, yes, exactly. Both kinds of bundles we see as a big part of our ecosystem. I mentioned briefly about pay TV operators being a big part of the volume of the global Android TV presence as well. And oftentimes they do have partnerships, or they have their own live service too, or they have partnerships with PSPs. So we have a couple of ways in which we bring them into the ecosystem. One is PSP apps can actually run on Android TV. So we have a few apps that are integrated, and you can access them using any Android TV device directly. And those of them who do more content forward integrations with us, we are able to bring that in as well into even the top screen if they may have those integrations. In some cases with pay TV operators, they may have bundles where there's a live TV subscription along with the device that the user buys. And we have many of them who work with us on Android TV powering those devices, but we do give some flexibility for them to position their apps dynamically as well.
And Simon asked a question in the Q&A with regards to the Google Assistant. Do you see that becoming an increasingly consumer-facing offering? Maybe on remote controls and things like that, to talk to search and elements like that. Do you see the Google Assistant becoming a consumer-facing piece of AI as well?
Absolutely. I think one of the things, the reason that we did what I'll call native integration with the Google Assistant, which means we have done backend integrations from algorithmic perspective, is because of precisely this. Most of the Google TV and Android TV remotes have a button that you can press to invoke the assistant on the TV screen. And when you bring up a question, it's actually using our personalized recommendation backend so that it can bring consistent results to your top page. So it incorporates user preferences and behavior even in the search results itself. So definitely a big part of I think the user interactions, and so it'll be a continuing part of bringing AI and personalization as well.
There's a good question. A topic that keeps getting brought up across a lot of these panels and many panels that I'm on in the CTV space is, frankly, data and how little kind of universal, truthful data is accessible for media buyers and other folks. There's a question in here, and I'm also curious as to whether or not you see, as the number one shipped OS out there in CTV land, are you seeing any interesting trends in your AI-based content search, for FAST and MVPDs and broadcast apps and SVODs? Do you see, are you seeing any trends? Or, we know that the viewership is moving towards FAST to a certain extent, or it's increasing. But again, I'll just reiterate this and then get out of the way. Any big trends you're seeing from the overall aggregated data in the search across your platforms?
I think one thing is that everyone wants personalization even in search results. So we see that user feedback when we see the surveys, it's consistently better when there is personalization, both in the lean back, which is your top screen. You just turn the TV on, you get top screen, or when I do a search and it understands where I'm coming from. For example, if I'm searching from the TV surface, it means I want to watch the movie. But on the browser, on a laptop, I can give more generic results. So being able to tailor it to your mood at the time, we see that consistently user survey feedback gives more positive feedback there. The second is people do search a lot for popular shows because they hear from friends, hear from colleagues, and they want to watch it. And they don't know which app it is on. So they just say, play this for me, and the title. And we then can say which app. First, we try to prioritize apps they have subscriptions to. So we bring it in order. And that is received very positively. So that's a common search because that's how I do, for example. I get a recommendation from a friend, I want to watch the movie because it's a trusted person with similar viewing habits. And the next is also based on like categories. I may be in the mood for watching family drama or a comedy, and so we see that as a common pattern. So that's very important to have not just accurate results, but you don't want to give an ocean of comedy shows. You want to
Right,
understand
right.
what this user tends to do. So those are some common and intuitive patterns we see time and time again.
Sarah asked an interesting question, which is, okay, so you've got all this concentration on AI-based search and personalization based on past behaviors. But do you see kind of old school human curation playing a role in this modern ecosystem that you're building as well?
I'm so glad I got asked this question because we actually felt that we have seen that is an important part of what users expect. So we actually have a semi-manual operational workflow for tentpole events. For example,
That
when
is
there's a sport.
specifically Sarah's question too. That's very funny. Go ahead.
Exactly, right? Because it's something that resonates with most users. Because there may be something happening around the world that's in the news in the current week. And if we take a week to respond to that or find it, then we have lost the credibility with our users. So we want to be in minutes or hours, be able to bring content that's relevant to that, which is why we have this other infrastructure that leads into our what I'll call mixing algorithms. It flows into that as well. And I'll just share a very, very small anecdote where personally I felt touched by the product because of this. So, a couple of years ago, one of my favorite singers, a multiple award winner from India called Lata Mangeshkar, she passed away at the age of 90 plus, well lived life, but she passed away during COVID. And I grew up as a teenager and a child listening to her songs. And, I was actually feeling grief because I was a big part of my
Sure.
life. And in just hardly minutes, I saw a number of her songs getting recommended on the screen for me. So for me, it was almost like, the TV it cared about me personally. And so I just want to share that as an example of what that infrastructure can bring. These could be sports events or other events as well.
Or things in the news, when Matt Perry died, that
Yes.
would have been an interesting example as well. I'll ask you one last question, which kind of goes to this same question about the product touching you as a human and kind of, leaning into the user themselves. So anonymous attendee asked, does the aggregation and recommendations work for apps that aren't installed on the TV? Or that the person might not subscribe to, but kind of, let's say, so I'm not subscribed to BritBox, which doesn't necessarily, or Crunchyroll, which doesn't necessarily come pre-installed on a lot of televisions. If you see behaviors that the person says, well, they like anime or they like British dramas, will you still make recommendations for things that may not be installed or may not be subscribed to?
The answer is yes to both. And as long as they have built an app for Android TV, as long as that exists, we actually do try to bring content that the
Got it.
users may not already be subscribed to, because that's their way of discovering content they wouldn't have otherwise found.
Got it.
So we do.
All right. Well, we are absolutely out of time. This was fascinating. Great job. I learned a lot, which is a rare thing for me. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time and for such a great presentation. The winner of our Amazon gift card is, it's not James Brown, it's Warren Campbell, who answered correctly. James Brown House Party. There's more content in a half an hour, a really great panel coming up. There's 2 more panels after that today. Once again, these sessions will be up on Streaming Media's YouTube channel. There's content up there already. There'll be more of this content up there. Please come back in a half an hour for our next panel, and we'll see you in a little while. Thanks so much, Shobana.
Thank you, Evan. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.